Bore da pawb. Morning, bore da. Da ni'n gwneud y pethau arferol o aros i bobl gyrraedd. We're doing the usual thing of just letting people in as they arrive. So, bore da pawb sy'n cyrraedd. Bore da, good morning. Neu jyst yn croesawu pawb wrth nhw gyrraedd. Dwi dal yn meddwl sef bod yna rhyw fath o rollercoaster profiad wrth entro Zoom room. I still think there should be some kind of rollercoaster experience as you enter a Zoom room. Make it a bit more exciting. Maybe we can work on that. Bore da pawb, good morning everyone. Bore da.
Sorry, I thought the meeting started at 11. Did you see me join early?
Yeah, nes di gael neges ni? Did you get our message? We sent you a little message to say,
Yeah, I
okay.
saw it. Thank you. I was
Dim
thinking, oh
problem.
no, I can't join. But it's because I was half an hour early. But
Dim
apologies, that means I had it in my diary incorrectly and I need to leave half an hour early. So I'll only be here for the first hour. So apologies.
Dim problem. Dim problem. Bore da pawb. Good morning everyone that's joining.
da.
Da ni just yn gadael pawb i mewn. Just letting everyone in. Reit, dwi'n meddwl. Mae'n rili anodd gwybod be i wneud yn dweud. Ydyn ni, faint mor hir mae rhywun yn aros cyn dechrau ar Zoom? It's really difficult to know what to do, isn't it? How long do you wait for people to turn up? I never know the answer. There's no guidance, is there? Dyna ni. So dwi'n meddwl nawn ni dechrau arni wan ddo. Kitty Lindsay, ydych chi'n okay adael bobl eraill i mewn? Da, maen nhw'n cyrraedd, gwelwch dda, sy'n gret. Diolch. So, yeah, bore da. Good morning. Just to let you know that I'm recording heddiw. We are recording today. So hopefully everyone's here knows about that because it's been put out with the information. A hefyd, y peth pwysig o'n ydy, mae hwn yn ofodwyieithog. So mae Sioned yma yn cyfieithu ni. Diolch fawr iawn i ti, Sioned. So Sioned's here translating for us. So if you need translation, I'm going to be presenting. I'm not even presenting. I'm going to be talking in Welsh. So if you go to the interpretation globe and click on English, then you should hear Sioned's voice. So os nhw'n trialu hynna, can we have a thumbs up if that's working for everyone? Gwych. Diolch fawr iawn. Fantastic. Diolch. So, sorry, heddiw yma, dwi heb di gallu cael rhywun BSL i fod hefo ni. Mae gennau ofn, a hefyd dwi wedi methu gosod Otter AI fel transcription. Dwi wedi dysgu bore yma bod fi angen talu loads mwy o bres i gael hynna. So, ymddiheuriadau, ddylsw bod fi wedi paratoi hynna o flaen llaw. Rwy'n ni weithio ar hynna gyfer tro nesaf. A wedyn, os da chi eisiau unrhyw beth, da ni'n gallu cefnogi chi hefo, jyst gyrwch nodyn chat personol ata i, neu gweddill tîm, neu gyflwyno chi iddyn nhw rwan, so os da chi angen cymorth efo unrhyw beth, jyst gadwch ni wybod. So, dwi'n mynd i gyflwyno y criw sy'n mynd i siarad chi bach mwy am Dyffryn Dyfodol heddiw yma hefo chi. Yn gyntaf, yn anffodus, dydy aelod o Partneriaeth Cartrefi Conwy ddim yn gallu ymuno efo ni. Mae gen i reswm da iawn, mae ar gyfnod mamolaeth. So, os ti'n gwylio hwn eto rhywbeth yn dyfodol, Sioned, helo, Sioned. Ond pwy sydd yma hefo ni ydy fi, Iwan ydw i, helo pawb. Mae Katie yma, ti'n cael ei llaw Katie? Helo Katie. A mae Lindsay efo ni. Helo Lindsay. A mae Justin yma. Helo Justin. So dwi'n eisiau gadael chi gyd allan o fedru codi llaw. So wan sy'n hoffi chi gyd codi llaw dde chi, a codi llaw arno ni gyd, please, i weld bod chi gyd yma. Ydych chi gyd yma? Llaw dde? Llaw? Brilliant. A llaw chwith, ydych chi'n gallu chweld llaw chwith hefyd? Brilliant. So mae hwnna yn cyfri fel exercise boreol yn Iwan. So ydych chi'n mynd am dro neu mynd i wneud crossfits na ddim byd. So mae'n cyfri. So, o'n i just eisiau deitha chi i gyntaf pam bod ni di dewis i gynnal y sesiwn yma. Nath ni sesiwn yn rhannu gwybodaeth am y prosiect Dyffryn Dyfodol i gyd nôl ym mis Gorffennaf. Ac ar ddiwedd y sesiwn yna, nath ni holiadur bach yn gofyn be arall ydych chi'n hoffi wybod am y prosiect. Ac y peth oedd ar dop yr rhestr oedd am y bartneriaeth a sut nath ddatblygu ac yn y blaen. So dyma pam ni yma. Mae wedi cymryd spel i ni drefnu y sesiwn, ond da ni yma wan, so dwi'n falch ac yn gred bod chi gyd hefo ni heddiw yma. A wedyn be da ni'n neud heddiw yma ydy archwilio partneriaethau traws sector. So, dych chi wedi darllen hyn i gyd, ond jyst i atgoffa a checio bod chi'n y lle iawn, da ni yn mynd i archwilio sut mae sefydliadau gwahanol, Corff Statudol, NAW, Cymdeithas Tai, Cartrefi Conwy a Cwmni Creadigol, Ffiwsar, wedi datblygu perthynas agored ymddiried yn ei gilydd wrth ni gydweithio ac archwilio posibiliadau'r dyfodol. So be wnawn ni wneud? Wnawn ni rannu chdi bach o beth dyn ni ddysgu, beth dyn ni'n neud stwff, ac i gael rhannu dyn ni eisiau gwneud. Dyn ni ddim hefo dethbaw PowerPoint kind of presentation i chi, fel chi'n falch o glywed. So mwy o'n ni yn cael sgwrs a rhannu fydd y sesiwn yma. A wedyn, so ar yr agenda, ni sôn am sut nath ni ddechrau partneriaeth, be dyn ni wedi bod yn wneud er mwyn datblygu'r partneriaeth yna, a wedyn yna sesiwn rhyngweithio efo stafelloedd breakout, fyddwch chi falch glwb, chi'n gallu cyfrannu, sydd yn gret. A wedyn o'n i ymateb i stwff sydd wedi codi fel rhan o hynna, a bwriad ydy bod ni'n gorffan am 1 o gloch heddiw yma, fel bod ni gyd yn gallu mynd i gael cinio. A wedyn, da chi wedi gweld neges yn y chat, yn siŵr, sy'n gret, da chi'n gallu cyflwyno'ch hun. Lle ydych chi? Pwy ydych chi yn gweithio hefo neu'n gweithio i? A hefyd, sy'n gret clywed gennych chi unrhyw heriau ydych chi wedi dod draws, neu allan rhaid gweld sy'n gallu codi wrth ddatblygu partneriaethau traws-sector. Sy'n rili difyr clywed gennych chi am hynna os ydych chi yn meindio rhannu hefo ni, sy'n gret. A wedyn, dwi'n mynd i deifio mewn i mewn i sôn chdi bach ydych chi am prosiect Dyffryn Dyfodol. So, prosiect ymchwil datblygu wedi cael ei ariannu gan Cyngor Cyfredol Cymru yn bennaf drwy cynllun cysylltu a ffynnu. Nath o ddechrau efo prosiect 2 flynedd. Dechrau'n ganol Covid, so nath ni ofyn am estyniad. Dyma bod credu Cyngor Cyfredol wedi rhoi estyniad i ni, sydd wedi bod yn wych i ni. Mae'n partneriaeth rhwng Cyfoeth Natur Cymru, Cartrefi Conwy a Ffiwser, fel wedi sôn yn barod. Be da ni wedi bod yn gwneud dros y 3 blynedd ydy archwilio ffyrdd gwahanol o gydweithio hefo partneriaid, ond hefyd hefo bobl creadigol a cymunedau. Ac ardal ffocws ydy dalgylch Afon Conwy. Ac esiampla rei stwff da ni wedi bod yn gwneud, da ni wedi bod yn gwneud bod math o bethau. So fe gen i'n amser heddiw fynd drwy pob beth, ond i roi syniad bras i chi, nath yn gwneud Cinema Bakes, sef cinema awr agored i bwerig am bakes. Mae'n 3 cymuned gwahanol. Da ni wedi bod yn cynnig pres am syniadau o bobl sydd wedi golygu bod yna stwff di dechrau sa'n ni byth di meddwl am. So mae yna sawl un o heini dal ar y gweill wan a dal yn weithredol. A wedyn da ni wedi gwneud galwad agored am bobl creadigol i gydweithio hefo i cymunedau nhw. Yn deillio hynna, mae yna wyl amazing yn Dolgarog di digwydd. Mae yna oriel cymunedol di sefydlu yn Pymachno. A mae yna lyfryn bach fel hwn wedi... da chi'n gallu gweld hwnna dda iawn, mae yna lyfryn nodiadau maes, field notes di deillio o'r galwad yna nath ni fel criw creadigol hefyd. Mae'n lot fwy. So ni'n rannu links yn y diwedd i chydig o fideos da ni wedi greu sy'n rhannu chydig bach mwy o safbwynt bobl creadigol sydd yn gweithio efo ni hefyd. Ond da ni yma ar gyfer trafod y partneriaeth traws-sector sy'n nath at y gilydd. So, ynglyn â hynna, unrhyw sylwadau neu cwestiynau sydd gennych chi wrth i ni fynd drwy'r sesiwn, jyst rhowch nhw yn y chat, sgwylch dda, sy'n gret, unrhyw beth. Sgwn ni'n amser i wneud nhw i gyd heddiw yma. Da ni'n rili hapus i ddod nôl at chi a cael sgwrs eto yn y dyfodol, so rili hapus i rannu. So, dwi wan yn mynd i drosglwyddo i Katie sy'n mynd i arwain ar y tamad nesaf.
Hi, oh goodness. Hi pawb. Yn llais wedi colli. Sorry. Esgusodwch fi. Right. So y sesiwn nesaf, da ni'n mynd i cael sgwrs gyda Justin i rannu sut dechreuodd y partneriaeth. Felly, ar y cychwyn cyntaf, oedd y syniad gan Iwan. Wedyn, roedd yna proses o'r sgwrsio. So felly, roedd Iwan wedi gweithio o blaen gyda Owen o Cartrefi Conwy. So mae Owen rwan, mae o'n wedi newid swydd. A gyda'r Natural Resources Wales, roedd ganddo e-bost Claire Pillman, y prif weithredwr Natural Resources Wales. Felly, aeth o'n syth ata hi. And wedyn, he was introduced to others at NLW, and eventually he arrived at Justin. And I was just, now is just a little point to sort of bring in Justin, really. Justin, do you recall your initial connection with Ewan and what made you want to get involved personally and professionally?
I do. It's funny, it's all through contacts, isn't it? So Ewan, like you said, had been in touch with people in NRW, and it was quite nice actually, because somebody else within NRW, Joe Roberts, who's involved in the kind of creative sector, he came to me and he said, "We've got this project. I don't know that much about it, but it sounds like it's a kind of people and places thing." And I work in people and places within natural resources as well. So he said, "It sounds like kind of people and places thing. I don't know if you want to get involved." So, so what I did was, we made contact with you and started having a conversation. And it splits into two things, doesn't it? Like you said, there's a kind of professional and a personal reason why you get involved. Johan, I don't know. I drew a Venn diagram earlier. I don't know if you could just stick that up on the screen. Anybody that knows me knows I really like Venn diagrams, and so because they help me make sense of things. So I'm not great at drawing, but you'll get the kind of gist of it. So in the top left, there's the kind of the day-to-day work which NRW does, and the Conway Valley for us is hugely important. There's too many things to list, but there's huge. It's a huge amount of water falls in the Conway Valley and rushes down the river, and it converges in Llanrwst, and it always causes the potential of flooding, etc. There's biodiversity in that river. We've got one of the biggest forests in Wales, also within the Conway Valley, which is the Gwydir Forest, kind of split between the north and the south. We've got everything that goes on in that forest, whether it's cutting down trees, whether it's biodiversity, whether it's people enjoying themselves. And then from, as well as that, we've also got a huge amount of other kind of work that goes on there. We've got metal mines, we've got reservoirs, we've got sites of special scientific interest. I could keep going on and on and on and on. But, our day job in Conway Valley is huge. And so it was a kind of, this project is based in Conway Valley. It's like, so straight away you're interested in thinking, there's something good here. And then to our right, there's to the top right in the diagram. That's the way we normally would work in a partnership. We always worked, we always offer people grants, or we had kind of legal agreements, memorandums of understanding, or we'd let contracts to people. We'd sit on project boards, we'd sit on things, and we had our very kind of well-defined partnership processes. And so for years and years, NRW, we kind of spent a lot of our time in that hatched area in between the two top areas of the Venn diagram. But then kind of suddenly, or it's not really suddenly, but new drivers started to push us to do things differently. And so we got the Environment Act, we got Future Generations Act within Wales, groundbreaking legislation, not new anymore, but but there's still really good bits of legislation, and they made us realise, we had to work differently. And when we sat back and looked at the legislation, and then looked at, say, the Conway Valley, we realised, we do have a forest, we do have rivers, we do have things that all joined together, but mixed in amongst all of those are communities and there's people. So we really need to look at how we do work differently. And so what I've tried to kind of explain in that Venn diagram is how the day job, our working methods, our tools, we needed to really pull them down towards the community, and that meant thinking differently and doing things differently. This project offered that opportunity. It looked different, it felt different, it was working with different people, different partners, people who've never worked with in the past. And it, so from a professional perspective, corporate perspective, it was offering us an opportunity to get involved, learn about our communities, engage with people, and do things differently. From a personal perspective, it was also the same kind of thing. It was, it was for me, I'd always worked in, projects where I knew exactly what was going on everywhere. I had very detailed knowledge of kind of, big European funded projects, where every screw and that bolt went. I kind of knew everything all the time. This offered me an opportunity to let go a little bit and do something different. And that's really, Katie, why I got involved.
That's great, thanks. Yeah, I also just want to just have a little reflection about the difference between the partners. So, basically FUSAR is very small. It's you and I primarily, with obviously freelancers, and I actually work as a freelancer as well. And obviously we've got NRW, who are a huge organisation with kind of a whole structure behind them. And then we've got Cartrefi Conwy, who also are a pretty big organisation. And so it's just to recognise there's quite a difference between the staff and staff numbers, and that you know, was reflected in how we then approached sort of working in an equal partnership, which we'll be talking about later.
People, people. Sorry, Kate, I was going to say, NRW, we are like a big ship. We have to be really careful how we say that, because you can mishear the word big ship, and then, but equally, some people think we're the other thing as well.
Yes, you are a big ship indeed. I also just want to just reflect on something really important that will certainly unsettle probably many of you who are used to working with very fixed kind of outputs and outcomes. And I think this was particularly different for this project. And that's what Justin was sort of alluding to about doing things differently. And so just to be really clear, at the beginning, we didn't have we had a direction, but the direction wasn't a sat-nav approach. It was very much like the process, without sort of firm outcomes and outputs. And as you'll sort of see as we move on, we've ended up with hundreds of different things that we've done and that we've learned from. And so I just want to put that out there right at the beginning, and that would certainly be something that we'll talk about later. I think we'll move on to the next section really, which is about sort of what we did, and that will kind of get down to a little bit of the nitty-gritty about how we approached the partnership, and how, as I said, we kind of worked to develop trust and you know, giving everyone an equal voice in the process. And that was initially, you know, the main partners as individuals kind of coming together, where we went out, and Yuan, do you want to just show a couple of photos of us being active outside? So not just having kind of Zoom meetings, but going out in our lovely Dyffryn Conwy, and meeting other organisations who are also working in the project area. And we had also, you know, these great outdoor sort of sessions, and then also in various venues. We came around in community spaces and sat down and got the flip charts out. And this leads us sort of nicely to how we developed the partnership with the help of our creative facilitator, Lindsay Colburn, where we spent 7 months actually working together. Do any of you want to just chat a little bit more about that experience, Justin or Yuan? Yuan, go for it.
O'n i jyst eisiau rhannu ar y dechrau, pryd nath ni ffeindio allan bod ni wedi derbyn yr arian, sut oedden ni eisiau cymryd approach gwahanol i hwn, lle bod yn aml mae yna un sefydliad sydd yn arwain, a mae'r arweiniad yna'n parhau efo'r sefydliad yna fel rhan o partneriaeth yn aml iawn hefyd. O'n i rili awyddus i archwilio sut da ni'n gallu newid y dynamics rhwng sefydliadau gwahanol sy'n cydweithio, really, a dyna, jyst yn bach o gefndir o ran rhesymeg tu ôl i pam bod ni eisiau gweithio hefo Lindsay fel rhan o hynna i helpu ni dod ar 3 sefydliad at ei gilydd. Dyna oll, dyna pam bod ni'n gwneud hynna yn lle cyntaf. Ac oedd y profiad y wych, really, nerli Justin neu Lindsay dyri pam.
Yuan, gai rhannu llun floor. Not the old one, the new diagram that I drew. So I was reflecting on, you know, how this project developed, and so it always helps me to draw things out when I think about this kind of stuff. So I drew out this this diagram based on some other work that we've done previously with our kind of various statements, and on, you know, thinking around how things work and how things flow around. So for me, you know, or for us, I think, you know, we started, like you said, with the project, and so there was a scope around that project, as in, you know, the money was bid for, we had to, you know, this is what the money will do. But like you said, immediately, rather than, you know, so the step 2 was getting the partners together. You know, you're all interested. So Partneriaethau, NRW, if you are, you know, we're all interested in this project. So we're all going to meet up together. And so that initial meeting of, you know, hi, who are we, and all this kind of stuff, but very quickly and very deliberately, kind of step back from that, and that's when we brought in Lindsay. And Lindsay's role was really to help us in kind of stages 3 and 4 there, which kind of, you know, where we really did start to explore and develop ways of working between us. You know, and that helped us explore, you know, where did we all come from, which different organisations, the size of the organisations, the dynamics of the organisations, you know, how we all worked. Like I said, you know, NRW big ship, very slow to turn, very difficult. Fuse are much more agile. Capture every proper somewhere in the middle. You know, so you know, we looked at those. We looked at the culture of our organisations, the culture of the way we worked. We looked at the language we use, and not just English Welsh language in terms of how we explain things, how we use jargon, etc., etc., etc. We went through that, and this started turning into a kind of, you know, an exploration of governance, which moved us on. So, you know, it kind of, you know, all of that unpacking right at the start, spending time deliberately doing that unpacking really helped us in terms of getting this collaborative understanding. And more important than that, you know, we had a collaborative understanding of each other, a collaborative understanding of what we thought the project was going to do, but also gave us that kind of ownership, and that ownership immediately turns into governance. So, you know, NRW, we're big, we love our governance, but this was a different kind of governance. This was a kind of shared, you know, like Johan said, shared leadership, shared roles and responsibilities. Accepting limitations from each other, whether that's as simple as they're really busy this week because there's been a flood, or, you know, accepting limitations as in they don't know how to draw. You know, whatever that limitation might be. And the key thing around it too, it meant that we all kept talking to each other, and I think that constant communication and talking, and it doesn't have to be conversation. You know, it can be emails, messages, WhatsApps, whatever. We're keeping up that stuff. Sorry. Yeah,
I was just gonna jump in there, and actually also it's just to demonstrate that the process really wasn't linear, and actually we really wanted to kind of think creatively and visually about how we were kind of doing things and keeping it fresh by challenging ourselves and thinking, what normally happens in a partnership and how can we do things differently? And that wasn't easy at times, and I think, you know, it was at times hard work, because sometimes you just want to, you know, you're so kind of conditioned working in a certain way, and you know, on a personal level but also on a professional level, and so, you know, it took a lot of at times a lot of patience, and the fact that it took a long time to develop the partnership before we 7 months before we started delivering anything. And, you know, from organizations that aren't in the creative sector, that can be hard, because, you know, normally the project starts and you know what you're doing and you get on and you start delivering, and that the project was about developing the partnership, and it was really it was a little bit uncomfortable at times. I think that's fair to say.
Absolutely.
You've got
So'n ddifig cael barn Lindsay am hynna hefyd, ond I fi fel rhywun oedd yn rhan ohono fo, mi oedd yna tensiynau rhwng sefydliadau oedd isio stwff ddigwydd a pethau yn y dyddiadur am stwff pendant oedd yn digwydd. Ac hefo help Lindsay, nath ni fedru kind of, gwneud y pwynt na bod yr cyfnod datblygu partneriaeth yn hynod bwysig cyn i ddechrau y gweithgareddau. A oedd hynna, sgyrsiau anodd bod rhan o hynna, lle bobl di arfer, fel Katie'n deud, angen rhywbeth yn dyddiadur i ddangos bod ni'n gwneud rhywbeth, ac yn aml ar gyfer profi i line managers neu'r sefydliad cyfan rhywbeth bod na rhywbeth yn digwydd fel rhan o hynny. So dwi'n gweld, Lindsay, sgyn ti stwff i rannu ynglyn â hynna?
Ella. Wel, ie, be oedd gwahanol efo partneriaeth yma? Dwi'n meddwl roedd na rhywbeth reit freeing, achos does na ddim prysur ar how long it was going to take to develop this partnership. There was a real commitment to getting the relationships right. And I think that's the thing that often happens, especially when money is introduced into the system, because it produces pressure. Even if the funder's not putting the pressure on, you think, I've got to deliver something, and you rush to those outcomes. But as I think, well, both Johan and Justin said, like, the beginning has to be about noticing and challenging norms that are coming in to the partnership from the well, both the individuals and the organisations. And to me, partnerships are between individuals who are there, not actually the organisations. And that's sometimes quite hard to manage. And in this case, everyone was so open to a really free-flowing set of circumstances. I mean, not least because part of noticing what norms there were and what availability there was, like meetings had to be much shorter than we thought. We were in weird rooms without walls, which I really liked to put flip charts on. It was a bit of a challenge for me as well. But through that process and by everyone being really on it, because people started to feel like friends, I guess, people could then be really honest about what they felt uncomfortable about and sharing some of that. And also, I don't know if I can say this, almost not challenging in a horrible way, but just sort of saying, I find it quite difficult when this happens. I mean, things like turning up late. These are tiny things, tiny examples, or, you know, not quite doing your actions. And as part of the partnership process, if you take the time to explore what's going on in the moment, but also like imagining the scenarios of what you'd find very difficult in the future, you get this real sort of sense of like we're actual whole-rounded people. We're here, we've got kids, we've got other lives, you know, we're not some kind of machine. So it was amazing. And then, you know, it was drawing out. I mean, that's the thing. 7 months, you're saying, is it really? Yeah, that's quite long. I don't know. But in a way, this time will always happen. It's just it's carrying on under the ground usually, under other pressures. So yeah.
Well, Ewan, I don't know if you could stick up my flow diagram again, but I think, Lindsay, it doesn't always happen. I think that's quite key, isn't it? You know, so, you know, quite often on that flow diagram, if it's showing, I don't know, but, you know, organisations often jump from number 1, don't they, right down to, say, you know, number 7, the things that they're actually going to do. You know, sometimes they might do 1 and a little bit number 2, but then it's straight down to number 7. And I think that time that was, you know, was deliberately set at the start. We're actually going to spend time and do this, and we're actually going to do 3, 4, which makes doing number 6 actually then talking about what the opportunities are to do things, and then deciding which of those things you're actually going to. It makes it much easier because you've got a fantastic foundation built up for number 3 and number 4. That's all I was going to say, Ewan, on that.
Ewan, do you want to just share talking about doing things visually? We obviously spent a lot of time talking and time kind of writing stuff down and trying to make the connections. But I'm just, yeah, that's this kind of early flow diagram. Do you want to just say something about that, and then perhaps the mirror board as well, maybe?
Yn bendant. So un o'r pethau oedden ni'n archwilio'n gynnar iawn hefo Lindsay oedd sut oedden ni eisiau cydweithio a rhannu gwybodaeth efo'n gilydd. Ac oedd o'n lyflu gyda fi clywed gen Justin a gen Owen bod nhw eisiau gweithio yn fwy gweledol. Ac hynna fel music to my ears, really, am dda, great. A wedyn mae Justin wedi creu y llun cychwynnol, mae'n dod Justin yn rhyw fath o dadansoddi y flows gwahanol sydd yn Dyffryn Conwy. Ac hwn oedd kind of, i fi, mae hwn yn symbol o ddechrau yn taith gweledol hefo'n gilydd, actually, really. Dyma kind of ni'n cydweithio yn weledol o'r dechrau. So, hefo hynna mewn golwg, be nathon ni benderfynu wneud wedyn, oedd yn hytrach na cydweithio i greu dogfen Word neu testyn yn egluro ac yn cofnodi y partneriaeth, nath i benderfynu treialu gweithio yn weledol. So dyma ma'n cychwyn ni, nath ni ddechrau efo Padlet. Be nhw'n iwsio, mae pawb yn abod. So nath ni ddechrau efo Padlet, a just rhoi lot o stwff i lawr yna. Trio dallt be ydy'r prosiect, be sy'r prosiect yn gallu bod y falle. Yn gyfian iawn nath ni benderfynu bod Padlet ddim cweit digon cymleth i ni, really. Oedd o ddim digon hyblyg i ni fedru cyfuno pethau. Achos un o pethau o gynnau los ddiddordeb oedd sut mae pethau'n cysylltu fe'i gilydd, lle di pethau ddim yn eistedd yn ei silos i hunan, mae pob peth yn plethu a mae bywyd yn gymleth, really. So o hwnna, nath ni wedyn symud i greu mirror board. So basically, hwn, just zoomio allan y bach, hwn ydi partnership agreement ni, basically. Sydd ddim yn ddogfen Word, sydd ddim just yn llwyth o text, mae o'n trio yn ymgeisio datgan cymlethdod y berthynas rhwng y partneriaid ag y prosiect, really. So mae o'n mynd i, na i ddim mynd i fanylion manwl fama wan, ond nath rei o'r pethau nath ni fynd i archwilio, oedd kind of values ni a beth yn bwysig i ni, ffyrdd o weithio, ffyrdd o prosesau ni a ffyrdd o weithio hefo cymunedau hefyd, yn ogystal â cofnodi ar y cyd be oedden ni eisiau cael allan o'r prosiect. So mae loads of really difyr dod allan yma, eto sgyn ni'n amser i fynd drwy nhw i gyd, ond mae yna lot o stwff di codi, so dwi'n meddwl ddim di codi yn yr un ffordd os ni'n trio cynnwys gwybodaeth yma i gyd ar ddogfen luniau just geiriol yn unig, really. So dwi'n meddwl hwnna really di gosod sut oedd y berthynas yn datblygu yn y dyfodol. So, mae hwnna'n greiddiol i fi. Yn ogystal â amser ar y ddechrau, mae'r gweithio a gweithredu yn weledol yna really greiddiol i fi fo'r prosiect. So, pryd dwi'n meddwl am Dyffryn Dyfodol, dwi'n meddwl am gweithio yn weledol.
Justin, is there anything else you want to add about the sort of the visual aspects? I think actually in one of the questions, just quickly going to try and read back through. It's quite tricky to chat and read things in the in the chat. Let me just quickly see anything coming up quickly. Just I've just lost my screen. That's not happening. I'll come back to it later. Whilst we're on this sort of subject, anything that we want to raise and share collectively about overcoming any issues? Any sort of other reflections besides what we've already mentioned?
Wel, dwi'n bod rhywbeth, nath Lindsay sôn am, mae perthynas rhwng unigolion nid sefydliadau ella ydy partneriaeth go iawn. So, un o'r pethau mae rhywun yn gorfod dwi fath o rhagweld, neu trio rhagweld, os di unigolyn yn gadael sefydliad neu beth. So, yn y dechrau, Owen o Cartrefi Conwy yn gweithio fyny. A wedyn Owen, fel y Kate yn dweud, newid i swydd. A wedyn Sioned oedd y person o fewn Cartrefi Conwy, nath ymuno fyny. So, oedd hynna'n really ddifyr o ran dysgu nath ni'n neud ynglyn â sut da ni'n trosglwyddo gwybodaeth, sut mae Owen trosglwyddo gwybodaeth o un person i'r llall. A wedi bod yn gret, ac so ni wrth yn boddas a Sioned yma hefo ni i rannu ei phrofiad hi fel rhan o'r bartneriaeth. Ond, dwi'n meddwl just beth sydd wedi bod yn ddifyr efo'r dysgu yna di sut mae yn bosib, achos ar y dechrau pan ni'n trafod y scenarios o rhywun y gadael, mae'n anodd iawn gwybod beth sy'n dod nesaf, os na berson arall da ni'n gallu cydweithio efo, da ni'n gwybod ar y pryd, sut mae hyn yn mynd i weithio, ydy'r person newydd yn mynd i ddallt egwyddorion y prosiect, bod nhw heb wedi bod yna o'r dechrau cyntaf. So dwi'n meddwl, yna'n rili difyr fel rhan o dysgu. Mae o'n bosib, dwi'n meddwl. Dio ddim o hyd yn mynd i weithio allan, yn dibynnu ar y sefydliad ar unigolion. Ond i ni, oedden ni'n rili lwcus bod o wedi gweithio, bod yna rhywun arall o fewn y sefydliad wedi gallu camu mewn i rôl Owen o blaen, a wedi rili bachu yn y prosiect, rili. Yn y dechrau, so Sioned yn dweud chi, a mae yna fideo, nhw'n i rhai fideos, mae hi'n deud yn y fideos, yn y dechrau, oedd hi ddim cweit yn dall sut oedd prosiect heb ddim allbynna yn gweithio, really. Sut mae hynna'n hyn o posib, really. So, nawn ni roi link chi i'r fideo, gwch chi weld be mae hi ddeud, yn hytrach na bod fi'n trio ailadrodd be nath hi ddeud, so.
I remember her face when we were sitting around for the first time trying to kind of explain to her, and her mouth dropped and said, "You don't have any KPIs, key performance indicators." She was just like, she couldn't quite, it's just such a different way of thinking about things. And so that was quite impactful for all of us, and for us from the creative sector to kind of realise how other sectors work as well. So there was certainly lots of learning in that regard. The kind of the note in the chat that I kind of pulled up was just from Jane, and just wanted to sort of hear about views from each organisation and how the partnership challenges differ between the organisations, and how barriers are created that needs to be addressed. And I would say in that regard, part of the process of this collaborative agreement that we came up with was, as mentioned before, talking about scenarios and being really honest and direct about what might happen and how things might work. And by having those conversations up front really enabled us to to address things collectively when the situation arose that could have been on, you know, a very minor thing, as Lindsay mentioned, you know, people arriving late or not doing their action points, or some other things that are maybe a bit bigger about decisions about you know, some of the activities and how they might work, and how the funding is you know, allocated, etc. But ultimately it was Fusard that was holding the pot of money, and so you know, there was an acknowledgement about that and the fact that it was a creative project. I think now is a really good time to hand over to Lindsay, actually, if that's okay, Lindsay, for the next bit.
Gwych, ie. Roeddwn i'n meddwl fydd hi'n nais iawn cael tipyn bach o amser I adlewyrchu eich hunan sut mae profiad da ni'n sôn amdan yn relate to y profiad chi. Ie, be da chi wedi wneud mewn partneriaeth, neu be da chi isio wneud. Ac yn arbennig, y problem, well, be da ni wedi sôn amdan around how does or would the long-term nature of the relationship building and having no fixed decided outcomes at the beginning, how would that create challenges to you personally or to your organisation? But not just challenges, but also what are the opportunities there? And I can see in the chat a few of you have taken up the idea of the visual side of things, but of course that was in this partnership that they wanted visual. You have to bear in mind, others it might be sound or physical, it could be any other type of way of recording things. So we thought it'd be a bit of a nice opportunity to meet some others, perhaps just reflect and chat around these 2 points. We're going to put in the chat the question, but when you go to your breakout rooms, the chat will horribly disappear. So if you want to take the question with you, I'm just posting it now. Could you copy it from the chat and take it with you? So it's just about these 2 things, these 2 aspects, the long-term nature of the relationship building time and the not having fixed outcomes set at the beginning. How does that relate to your experience, really? So we're going to open up some breakout rooms with just like 5 people, so you've got plenty of time to chat. I appreciate some people find them uncomfortable, but hopefully they will work. And it's just going to be for around 10 minutes. And we'll send a little warning about a minute before so you can prepare to be whisked away. So you'll be assigned, this is random groups. Hopefully, oh no, now, can you see breakout rooms? So we're going to do this to, about 20 past 12, but we'll send a note. Yeah. Quite like it as people disappear. Come back again.
We should have the roller coaster effect again, I think, when people leave as well when they arrive.
Yeah. Fel mynd i'r portal na rhywbeth.
Yeah.
Gwych.
Dwi'n mynd i pause your recording ni wan. Pause recording.
Iawn.
Ti'n iawn, Sianed? Wel, diolch ti. Sorry bod fi'n siarad yn gyflym. Bob tro dwi'n siarad yn gyflym, dwi'n fel, nice o fi lawr.
No. Okay, and also as we talk, it might be that the session after 4 or 5 might come in during 4, so we might share the partnership agreement or whatever before.
Yeah,
you roll the 2 together. Then that's quite a nice long time, isn't it? It's like 20 minutes, 20 also.
Yeah.
So
I hefyd, os da ni'n gorffen yn gynt, it's fine. You know, we don't have to run until 1 and stretch it out.
Yeah, of course, yeah. So this next session, I'll give them a bit of time to put their questions in the chat.
Yeah.
Could even do it like a cascade. Everyone type it in, but don't send it, and then send it all at once.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice. Achos wedyn mae'n llai o expectations a darllen gyda rhywun else sgwennu cyn sgwennu stwff ti hefyd.
Yeah.
So that's
dyma pam mae gen i problem, actually. Mae'n just kind of, yeah.
Okay, shall I close the rooms?
Yeah.
Oh,
Close all rooms. Bing. Did that work?
mae o yn deud in 50 seconds ar un fi ar y gwaelod.
Oh, okay, it's given a minute, right. Good, that gave me a few minutes.
Interesting combinations. Fi'n just darllen pwy sydd efo pwy.
Croeso nôl.
Croeso nôl. Welcome back.
O, mae'n hyfryd weld pobl eto. O. Wel, gobeithio roedd y profiad yn iawn. Achos mae'n cymaint o bobl, roeddwn i'n meddwl, be am roedd, yeah, I'm going to say it in English. What about putting in the chat? We were thinking we could do a chat cascade. So what we were thinking is, if you have a little think for a minute or so about any like blinding insights or questions, they don't have to be that blinding, but things that really struck you from that conversation, perhaps that you'd like to bring into the wider group or ask the partnership. Yeah, insights, questions, comments, anything at all, but type them into the chat, but don't post them yet. So we'll give like a few minutes to type something in. Saesneg neu Cymraeg yn iawn. English or Welsh is okay. And then when I say go, we'll put them all in and they'll flood out like a beautiful, impossible.
Flow of something.
So yeah, any questions, insights in the chat? So just type your message in. Don't press send yet, and then in a couple of minutes, I'll just send that on.
Can I suggest a technical thing which has caught me out a few times? Better to type it somewhere else, like in Word or an email draft, and then paste it all over at once, because as soon as you press enter for a new sentence, you're posting it.
Oh, God, okay, yes.
So you'll end up with bits then, if you're not careful.
Yeah, we could have a braided stream of thought would not be, oh, it might be interesting. It might be more surreal, like sort of one of those
Weird poems.
Yeah.
Just be careful of the enter button.
Well, and don't worry if it goes wrong.
Yeah.
We like things going.
Well, going wrong is an opportunity for emergence, isn't it? Which we like.
Emergencies, yeah. I think that's the future of the world. Creating spaces for emergence. And also, if you really hate typing in the chat, then you don't have to do it either. It could even be a picture, it could be anything.
Oh, diolch Bramwyn, top tip. Press Alt, then Enter for new line within the post. Oh my goodness, really I've learned something today. Well, I always learn something, but I learned something that I very Zoom related that was good to learn. Thank you, diolch.
Okay. Ni'n barod? One barod? Yeah. Okay. Dwi'n trio gweld pobl pwy sy'n edrych yn barod. Okay. Okay, let's see how it goes. Let's go 3, 2, 1.
Ewch.
Ewch. Wow.
Okay. So do we start at the bottom with this? No, because then they're going to keep adding, aren't they?
I just tipyn bach amser just nhw dy hunan. Cael rhyw fath o gist o beth sy'n dod allan. A mae'n bosib save the chat hefyd, efo the 3 dots for more. Felly, roedd ni'n meddwl... Have I got an echo?
Yes.
How about now? Okay. I'm not quite sure why that's happening. Yeah, so now we thought it was an opportunity just to respond to some of those points in the chat. It's both a mixture of people in the room, but also the partners, just to respond to add any more points that relate to your points that they haven't got out before. So it's kind of like a gentle interaction because there's so many people. Sometimes it's quite difficult for just 1 or 2 questions to be asked in a group. It just sways everything in one direction. So it's like trying to get a sense of what's come out there. So yeah, Katie, Justin, Iwan, rhywbeth I deud?
Gai ymateb, mae'n stwff rili difyr a dwi wedi darllen y gyd eto. Ond mae yna dipyn o gwestiynau am yr outcomes, a peidio cael outcomes a outputs, ag yr ariannwyr. So yn y cais, nathon ni roed outputs a outcomes fel targed, achos mae rhaid i ni. Ond unwaith oedden ni'n dechrau'r prosiect, oedden ni'n gwybod bod hynna yna fel targed, ac oedden ni'n gwybod bod ni'n mynd i gyrraedd nhw, ond oedden ni'n scrapio nhw o fod yn gyfrifoldeb y bobl creadig o'r cymuned oedden ni'n gweithio fo, achos oedden ni'n gwybod bod nhw'n mynd i ddod, ond oedden ni'n gosod nhw fel targed i bobl oedden ni'n cydweithio hefo. So, eto beth Lindsay'n sôn am emergence, gadael iddyn nhw godi oedd y peth. So, a heb i ni osod yr outcomes a outputs yna ar y dechrau, a roed yr bwysau yna ar yw'n creadigol. Rhaid ti gael 30 o bobl i ddod i'r thing ma. Achos dyna da ni wedi ddeud ar y dechrau. Dyna da ni'n scrapio. Mae'r outcomes outputs gen y funder dal yna, ond oedden ni'n gorfod cael hyder fel partneriaeth i beidio iwsio hwnnw fel y peth oedd yn arwain beth ni'n neud a sut oedden ni'n neud o. So dwi'n meddwl, ella bod hynna yn siarad fo chydig o comments sydd wedi codi fan'na.
And also remember that it was a research and development project, so there is quite a lot of scope within that context, the flexibility.
I think, one of the things that, for me that stuck out in the chat a little bit, I think, is that thing about setting KPIs and stuff and how difficult it can be. And I think, from an organisation where we're used to measuring numbers of things, and we do that a lot, and we set our projects around the measurement and numbers and stuff, and we could have done that with this project. We could have said we are going to consult, or we are going to engage with 10 different communities within the Conway Valley. Immediately by doing that, we would have pigeonholed all those communities to being the same. And I think one of the really illuminating things for me was listening, because I wasn't actually part of this, but I listened to the people in the project talk about how they engage with 3 different communities that were really close together, less than 10 miles apart. So Llanrwst, Besacoed, and Penmachno, those 3 communities where they went and did cycle cinema. So they would go and one of the questions they asked was, so who should we invite? And every single community had a very, very different answer. One community said, we don't want you to share this with anybody else. It's just for us, just for our village. We want to have this, and it's just for us. We're fed up of everybody else getting everything all the time. Whereas another community said, open it as wide as you can. The more people that come, the better. I think, and I just think, and then I think the third community was kind of didn't necessarily respond, but everybody did come, and it turned into a kind of like a mini festival. I think, it's, to me, that story just kind of illustrates it's too easy to say, let's just do numbers. The stories are the things that are really important, and those communities were very different, and the way we approach and the way we deal with our day-to-day work with each of those communities then has to be a little bit different. If we're going to go and cut down some trees in one of those communities, we need to think differently about the way we speak to them. And I know that it's difficult in hard times, in terms of budgets, well, the next few years, but it's a really important thing to have in the back of your head.
I think it's also about, not assuming a norm within the partnership, but also a norm within the communities that that one connects with and engages with. And I'm just sort of thinking about, just kind of having the space to be able to kind of compromise and to be flexible within the partnership, especially, and recognizing sort of each other's sort of pressures. But also, being able to kind of shift things and change things and be responsive. And just a little example would be that about, for example, NRW uses Teams, and they struggle with using Zoom because of the system doesn't really like them logging onto something else. And we don't like Teams. But anyway, the point being that it's a little bit of a compromise about, we swapped it around, and we started off with really trying to give it a go with Zoom, and then we alter between using Teams and things. So it's just a very little example of, you start something and you don't necessarily need to continue it if it's not working for everybody. And it's really about listening and hearing what's going on for people within the partnership, but also within our communities. And that's a kind of fundamental message about what we're really kind of excited about. And yes, I see in the chat about people having, the realistic challenge of, limited timescales and limited funds and requirements to deliver. And I would recognize it, but I would really hold on to that kind of confidence that actually it'll kind of, things will happen and it'll be okay. I've seen there's a hand raised. Is that Manon? I recognise. Unmute.
Fel artist, a hefyd mae hwn yn brosiect creadigol, ymchwil a datblygu. A dwi'n meddwl bod o'n ddiddorol I fi gael clywed gennych chi sut nathoch chi ddod â'r creadigrwydd I fewn I broses allatro I fod yn siop siarad. Achos dwi'n meddwl mae'r syniad o cyfarfodydd undonog ofnadwy yn amhosib I bobl creadigol. Felly bysa fo'n hyfryd clywed sut ydych chi ddweud, wel na, dim dyna be oedd o, yn proses o sgyrsio a trafod, ond mewn ffordd hollol newydd.
Gwych, diolch. Rwy'n i'n meddwl, mae'n ychydig o pwynt yn y chat hefyd o'r syniad o sort of the ripples out of a drop in a pond. And the ripples, how did those meetings create ripples in the organisations as well as connecting, I think David clearly saying as well about trusting the next round out, the artists and creatives to create something out of that initial ripple and those meetings in the centre. So anyone want to respond to those?
Wel, dwi'n meddwl, yr peth pwysig sydd wedi gwneud gwahaniaeth mawr I fi ydi Lindsay, o rhan o'r dechrau. So dyna sydd stopio siop siarad I fi, bod gen I bwrpas yn cael ei arwain gen Lindsay'n facilitatio hynna rhwng y tri partner. Nes ni wedi gallu bod yn mynd rownd a rownd a ddim yn datrys dim byd, really. So I ateb the question di, Manon. Ond dwi'n meddwl, mae'r syniad yma ripples, really. Dwi'n meddwl, mae'r broses o siarad yn y dechrau na wedi creu diwylliant prosiect, os lici di, sydd yn byw tu hwnt I ddiwylliant sefydliadau ac unigolion. So dyna ni wedi trafod be ydy hynny, a di gwneud pwynt o benderfynu be ydy rhai o'r pethau yna, efo sut ni'n delio fo'n gilydd, efo bobl eraill, beth sy'n digwydd os oes yna disaster, dyma senario, dyma sy'n ni'n delio efo, beth sy'n digwydd os yna anghytuno, dyma sy'n ni'n delio efo. A mae hynna wedi adeiladu fel Lindsay dweud, da ni wedi troi'n ffrindiau, really. Da ni'n ymddiried yn ein gilydd fel unigolion. Da ni'n gwybod, mae'n teimlo fel bod ni'n nabod yn gilydd rili ra. Really. Da ni wedi treulio lot o amser efo'n gilydd. Fel bod gen i rhywbeth fel 29 cyfarfod partneriaeth da ni wedi cael ei gyd dros 3 blynedd. So, mae'n lot o amser efo'n gilydd. Ac yn y dechrau, hynna'n wythnosol, really, i ddatblygu prosiect. Ond dwi'n meddwl mae'r ripples na'n rili difyr, achos da ni wedi gwneud stwff. Ond wedyn o hynna, mae yna fwy o stwff wedi digwydd. A rei stwff da ni'n gwybod am peth stwff eraill da ni ddim yn gwybod am. Fel enghraifft, hefo yr artistiaid, nath ni gomisiynu gydweithio hefo cymunedau. Mae Jackie yma rwla wedi codi lot mwy o bres ar gyfer cymuned Dolgarog a trefnu gwyl huge. Dim ni nath hynna, Jackie nath hynna. Nath ni gydweithio efo Jackie, a mae hi sydd wedi mynd off a wedi gwneud hynna. Mae hynna'n amazing. A'r un peth hefo Kristen yn Pymachno, hi Jackie, yn Pymachno wedi sefydlu yr oriel cymunedol a siop cymunedol. Mae gen i hi lease peppercorn rent y fanna am 5 mlynedd. So ni byth yn gallu gosod hwnna fel brief i rywun creadigol i wneud. So pobl yn cerdded milltiroedd i ffwrdd o'r cyfle yna, really. Achos oedden ni'n cynnig lot o bres, really. Ond oedden ni'n agored i bosibiliadau, a gwrth fod yn agored i bosibiliadau yma, mae yna lot o bethau di digwydd sy'n ni ddim wedi gallu rhagweld, really. So wedyn mae yna stwff tu hwnt i hynna yn digwydd fel ripples. Da ni ddim yn gwybod am, fydden ni byth yn gwybod am, a gathon ni sgwrs really difyr ynglyn â bod hynna'n okay. Da ni'n angen claimio heini fel rhywbeth mae prosiect i wneud. Mae yna stwff yn digwydd, a ni gyd yn cael dylanwadu yn pethau gwahanol, a just bod yn ffain hefo hynny'n digwydd, really. Ond, so, da ni'n gwybod am lot o ripples i digwydd, ond dyna un o pethau, nath, ydych dal yn gweld o? Y field notes gen Emrys yn sôn lot am ripples, a dyna di syniad y field notes yma ydy bod heini ar gael i bobl ar draws y byd, a mae hwnna eto dio ddim yn guide how to, mae just yn stwff i sbarduno ffyrdd o feddwl a ffyrdd o weithio. A be yna i wan ydy cael heg, a na i roi link ar gyfer hwnna y fersiwn digidol i chi yn y chat.
Gwych. Jackie, did you want to say something?
Oh, am I mute? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, I guess for me, being my involvement in the project, and it's the way it was different from everything else, was that openness that it was allowed to just flourish from an idea, and the outputs were open, and because of that, I suppose it's a difference. I think I look at it like the difference between, if I'm a visual artist, by the way, if you've got a colouring book and you've got the outlines drawn and you've got your packet of felt tip pens and all the colours, there's like 5 colours, and then you give that to 10 people, those parameters, and you all end up with the same thing. Whereas if you end up with, if you're given a blank piece of paper to develop your own sort of ideas, then you'd end up with who knows what. And that's the magic of it, and that's what, for me, the project has kind of been allowed to grow and develop and flourish because it's not been constricted. Had the project been one thing that I'd said, I'm going to do this thing and that's it, and I want 20 people to attend, and it would have ended. But no, it's gone on, and we're building on that. So yeah, I don't know if that's helpful.
That's great, thank you. And the other side of the ripples is we're talking about organisations being, well, the individuals really being in partnership, and then so the buy-in to the organisations, and I think that quite a lot of that's in the chat, like, yeah, how does it dig into the wider culture of the organisation? I don't know, Justin, did you want to say something about how you, because I thought it was particularly striking actually how well this was done by Justin to NLW there.
Okay, thanks, Lindsay. I'm not sure where to start. I always get a bit stuck when I think about this, but the project itself really, it did a lot of things for me, and it did a lot of things for NRW. The stuff we've already talked about. We learned about different approaches. We learned about not needing to be in control. We learned about listening and understanding each other, and it gave us confidence, I suppose, around thinking differently, confidence in speaking out, confidence in others, confidence, me personally, that I could be myself within a project or within a meeting, those sorts of things, and taught us different ways of doing things, and we're not, I suppose it's really useful to say, as here, we're not saying this is the way to do something. I suppose what we are saying is the way to do something is make sure you spend time at the start and understand each other and develop a really solid foundation. But we're not saying use Miro, we're not saying use flow diagrams, we're not using Venn diagrams. We're just saying, take the time, do stuff at the start. We are saying that, but in terms of NRW itself, we tried some different approaches based on what we'd learned here. We did some different things. I don't know, Johan, it would really help me if you just put up that old diagram, the one that the
flows
we drew. Yeah. So when we were early on, when we were talking about the project, we started looking. I drew this, and as you can tell, I'm not a creative. It's not there yet, is it? It's not me. It's not just me that can't see it, is it? Okay. So what we kind of looked at was, for NRW, it's a natural thing for us to think about flows. We think water, and we think water flows. We think about the water cycle. So that's where that thing kind of came from. The peatlands in the top there. What happens technically around ditching and carbon loss, etc., and how that turns rivers brown, and how that flows down the river, flows through different places and ends up in the sea, and then goes around. So you all kind of know about the water cycle. And that's how we think. And then we think catchment, and we think, this area, that's all one thing. But through this project, started thinking a little bit different in terms of those flows. What other flows are really important in those catchments? And there's all sorts of flows, aren't there? There's flows of people. They go in and out of the catchment, whether they're working, whether they're leaving, whether they're coming in to live, whether they're coming in to visit. Flows of people are really, really important. And those flows are really very different to a catchment in terms of water. Also, the flows around stories, the flows around money. So all that started just thinking within NRW. Okay, so there are a lot more flows than what we're used to dealing with here, and that's fact, we've got so many people working in this water catchment. They're all interacting with those different flows in different ways. So we needed, it kind of came very obvious to us. We need to think about doing something differently within NRW. So what we tried was, we just got everybody in that catchment together to talk to each other. And it's not a new idea, is it? It's, talking to each other, getting people together to network. It's not a new idea, but we hadn't done that within NRW. So we brought everybody together, and internally, and very quickly, during those times getting people together, very quickly what that turned into was, a bit of sharing at the start. This is what we're doing, this is what we're going to do. Avoided people standing on each other's toes, avoided people doing the same thing, etc., etc. The other thing what it did was people very quickly started talking about, there's an opportunity here to do something, or we're not doing something over there, or I'm going over there, why don't you come too? We can do, and very simple kind of stuff that we kind of take for granted, but as an organization we haven't done that. And because it works so well internally, and we needed a name for it to help us understand it, we called it Llyfr. So Llyfr, the kind of Welsh kind of flows. So we thought, I wonder if this will work externally as well. And so we tried it, and we got people together in a building in Bedford, and it worked really, really well. We maybe had 50, 60 people there. And I just stood back and watched and listened to the buzz of all those people talking. And I have no doubt we were helped a bit because of COVID and because people were used to not meeting face to face. I've no doubt that helped us, but it was fantastic to see how well that worked. And it very quickly kind of did the same thing. People shared what they were doing, and people very, and started talking about gaps, opportunities, etc. And what I really liked was seeing some very, very quick little wins. And I know some of you will have heard these before, but they were really quick wins. One thing was our forest resource planner wanted to, sorry if you heard that. Our forest resource planner was looking at a map and saying, we own this bit of woodland, we own this bit of woodland, if only we knew who owned the bit in the middle. And the guy next to him in the room said, we do, so let's talk about how we talk about ecological connectivity. And that was fantastic. It was like, that's a massive win. It's a little win, isn't it? But it only happened because those people were in the room together. Another win was, and it's led to another successful, project, which is going on right now, was between Fusar, Wildlife Trust and NRW, talking about some ESME Blue Spaces funding. And you basically people in the room who were saying, we're thinking of going for this. And again, it's nothing groundbreaking or new about that. It's just getting people together and talking. But they said, yeah, we're going for this, we're going for this. Why don't we do this together? And it's just great to see those little successes build. Have I talked for too long?
No, that's perfect. And what a segue into our next session. We're so weirdly on time. So we were going to just do a little, just so that you can see what happens next, is just a little bit of sharing a few things that might be useful, including finding out. So this is really focusing on the partnership and the relationship building in that central water drop. And then there are going to be more sessions, aren't there, talking about different aspects that link to some of this. We see siarad hynny. Iwan, yeah.
Dwi newydd ein yn y chat. So, mae hyn eto'n deillio ar cyfarfod gathon ni ha dwytha. So, o bobl hefyd eisiau gwybod am sut da ni wedi cydweithio'n greadigol, efo bobl creadigol yn yr ardal a'r cymunedau. So, fydd sesiwn nesaf ar y 9 o Fai. Oedden ni wedi gobeithio cael link i chi bwcio erbyn heddiw, ond da ni wedi cael amser, sori. A wedyn yn wedyn, fydd o am werthuso ag adlewyrchu. So, da ni wedi cymryd tac gwahanol hefo hwnna hefyd. Achos I fi, dwi o hyd yn meddwl am sut yn gwneud stuff gwahanol hefo prosiect, really. So, nath ni'n gwneud hynna mewn ffordd gwahanol hefyd. So, mae hwnnw'n mis wedyn, mis Mehefin. So, os nwch chi ddilyn Instagram ni, gyfer Dyffryn Dyfodol, nawn ni roi diweddariad yma i chi hefo link i'r lle i archebu lle ar gyfer y sesiynau nesaf yna. Os yna'n gret I chi ddod yn ôl, os gennych chi ddordeb, neu gadwch chi rhywun arall wybod.
Gwych. Ac roedd ti'n deud, Iwan, ti'n hapus os fydd bobl eisiau cysylltu â ti efo cwestiynau?
Ie, yn bendant. Mae yna lot o gwestiynau rili difyr yn y chat, so wneud y modd yn cael sgwrs mae bobl yn bellach am hynny. So, ella y ffordd gorau ydy os ydych chi eisiau e-bostio fi, ella ni drefnu gael sgwrs. Dwi jyst yn gweld os dwi'n cofio e-bost fi, iwan@fuser.com am yna. So, gyrwch neges. Hefo'r cwestiwn, neu efo cwestiwn arall, neu da ni'n rili hapus I rannu beth ydy'n wneud a just cael sgwrs hefyd, really. Dyna sy'n mae pob peth da ni wedi gwneud efo prosiect I dechrau, ydy gael sgwrs. So, pryd ni'n gwneud galwad efo criw creadigol, beth gyntaf ni'n gwneud sgwrs. Dim cais, dim CVs, just gael sgwrs. A mae'n peth, pob peth da ni'n gwneud, mae o gwmpas bobl, really, a rhoi bobl yn ganol pob peth da ni'n gwneud, really. So, so ni wrth y modd yn cael sgwrs efo chi.
Y peth ola, dwi'n meddwl, ydy ar rhan o'r Connect and Flourish funding gan yr Arts Council. Well, yeah, Dyffryn Dyfodol this project was funded by that initially, wasn't it? I don't know where to start. Yeah, for years I've as a facilitator, I've been helping people do partnership agreements and so on. And as part of the Connect and Flourish funding training, this sort of like guidance on how to set up partnerships or collaborations was sent out, that based on stuff that I've written over the years. But it's not like the idea was that this is enough for anyone who's okay at talking to people to run their own creative partnership agreement process. It's not that you have to follow it bit by bit. It's just like, which of these things do I like and not like? So I'm going to post that in the chat. It's a terrible description of it. Yeah, the idea is here are some things to think about and have a go at trying it out. So most recently, you and Katie have asked me to try do one super quick partnership process. So I'm still using the same framework that I did for this long one, but really quick, like can we do it in 2 sessions? Thank you very much. And the answer is kind of. So anyway, so there's a thing in case it's useful. I couldn't find the Welsh version. I'm sure I've got one, but sorry.
Actually, can I just jump in, actually? Yeah, just in the line with that, you know, the whole sort of thing, I've noticed that we haven't really addressed sort of risk has come up quite a lot in the kind of conversation. And I'm not sure we're going to have, I just note it. That wasn't what I was thinking about. What I did want to talk about was the fact that everything about the partnership is about being able to try things, give it a go, and if it doesn't feel right, change it. But also, like, when you guys are doing partnerships, it's like, you know, you don't need to follow a model of ours. It's the principles that is important to kind of keep in mind, a bit like Jackie's kind of example of, you know, if you give people a kind of fixed number of colors, that's what they're going to use. It's actually just starting out being much more open. So I just feel like I wanted to just kind of repeat that. So although, for example, we used a Miro board, it doesn't necessarily mean that will be necessarily right for your journeys of kind of collaborative approaches. It might be, but there might be something else out there, and something that we didn't try, or something that we tried that didn't work for us but might work for you. And so it's always about just being open to trying things differently, and just that checking of yourself, and also being prepared to go out your comfort zone. I think we all have at different times in different ways, and that certainly then is a nice segue back to risks. And yes, it's important to recognize risks, and there's going to be different kind of situations for each other, but I really do think that when you can communicate and verbalize, you can kind of talk through them. And I don't know if that's something that, Justin, you want to just have a moment to kind of reflect on because of the way that you traditionally work. You're on mute.
Sorry, my computer just buzzed and I didn't hear what you said. I'm really sorry. Could you say it again? Not all of it.
I was just talking about risk and about how, you know, I feel that, you know, risks can be overcome, and once you recognize them, you put them out there and you share them, and then collectively you find a way to kind of manage them and to kind of alleviate that. And I just wondered if you had any reflection about risks, because, you know, certainly Cartrevi as well felt a bit of pressure about that, I would say.
No, absolutely. And NRW as an organisation, we are quite risk averse. So we again go back to the big ship thing. We're quite slow at turning, but we were given the opportunity here to test out some things and look at it. And I think without going into detail around this, I think what we started doing, we started asking ourselves some questions. This kind of thing of is what do we do? That's one thing, isn't it? And then there's the kind of thing of what should we do? So no matter what part of our work this relates to, whether it's engaging with the community, whether it's digging holes, there's what we're doing, there's what we should do. But there's really the kind of really important one is actually think a bit differently. What could we do? And it's that thing of, isn't it? What actually could we do here? We could do something different. And I think we completely different area on Anglesey, Newborough, where quite a lot of community tension around what happened with some of the NRW work. We wanted to engage with the community, and we've engaged with them for many years. And what we'd often do is hold a drop-in. So we'd go to a room, we'd put up a load of panels and say, this is what we're here to talk to you about. People would come in and they would talk to us. This project kind of taught us, you don't have to know what you're going to do when you get there. So we tried a different approach. We just said, we're going to open the door. We're going to work in the community, in the building. We're just going to open the door and feel free to come in and talk to us. And that was quite scary in terms of, what are they going to say? Are they going to come and throw bricks at us? Are they going to, what are they going to do? And people found that quite difficult. They came and said, so what are we doing here? Why, what are we supposed to be reading? And said, well, no, it's actually just about a conversation. You rather than us lead you and you talk to us about what you've read, what we've posted on the wall, just come and tell us what's bothering you. Just come and tell us what's interesting. And that's the it's another part of learning from this project. Another part that we've taken into NRW to do things differently. Not with unassociated risk.
Brilliant, perfect ending. Yeah, Iwan.
Diolch, sori, dwi'n ymwybodol bod ni'n rhedeg allan o amser rwan. Dwi hefo poll bach i chi neud, os da chi'n meindio, cyn i ni ddod â hwn i ben. Mae yna chydig o gwestiynau. Mae'n gret cael eich barn chi, mae o'n hollol ddi-enw. Ydych chi gyd yn gweld hwnna wan ar y sgrin? Gret. So, os ydych chi'n meindio cymryd chydig funud yna i ateb y cwestiynau sy'n rili defnyddiol i ni. A wedyn, rhoi 2 funud i chi. Wneud hynna cyn i ni ddod â pob peth i gael cyn 1 o'r gloch ydy'r bwriad.
Mae'n y cwestiwn yn chat gan Myfanwy. Dwi'n meddwl, jyst deud, gewn ni rhannu y pobl yn y Zoom neu ddim.
Ie, os di bobl eisiau rhoi manylion cyswllt nhw yn y Zoom, dyna sa'r ffordd gorau. Mae'n siŵr os da chi eisiau cadw mewn cyswllt efo bobl eraill. Os da chi eisiau rhoi manylion cyswllt chi yn y chat, sy'n ein gred, bobl sy'n eisiau cadw mewn cyswllt.
So everyone individually put their email in the chat if they want to share. That gets around GDPR. That's cool.
So, di pawb di cael cyfle digon o amser efo'r poll? I gau hwnna wan? So, ni'n dal wrthi? Ni'n gallu gweld hynny efo pawb. Okay, na i gau hwnna wan. Diolch yn fawr iawn i chi am rannu hynna efo ni. Hynna'n bril. So, da ni yn mynd i goffan am un. So, yr unig beth gyda i wneud, wan ydi diolch i pawb, really, am ddod i sesiwn. Mae'n rhywbeth i fi lle, dwi wedi cael cyfle i drafod lot efo lot o bobl eraill am Partneriaethau, actually. So, dwi wedi rili mwynhau heddiw yma, a mae gennym ni lot mwy i rannu, really. So, ydy hwnna rhywbeth sy'n angen digwydd? Ella bod Mike, ella bod chi efo Cwpr Wales yn lot o rannu ynglyn â Partneriaethau, felly. Ond ie, mae'n teimlo fel bod ni angen trafod o mwy mewn ffordd agored ac onest lle da ni'n rhannu beth da ni wedi wneud. A da ni'n bendant barod i wneud hynna. So, fel oedden ni'n dweud y blaen, os da chi eisiau sgwrs pellach, really hapus i gael sgwrs efo chi. Mae e-bost fi yn y chat. So, hefyd diolch i Katie, Lindsay, Justin am gyfrannu heddiw, ac i chi gyd am eich cyfraniad chi. Mae wedi bod yn really bril. Gobeithio na i weld chi yn un o sesiynau dyfodol, os nad cael sgwrs efo chi cyn hynna. Mae 2 funud i fynd. Sna rhywun arall eisiau dweud rhywbeth arall?
Ychydig o bobl wedi dweud, does na ddim digon o amser i llenwi'r poll.
OK. Wel, be allwn ni wneud ydy, allwn ni yrru y cwestiynau allan a gofyn am eich ymatebion chi. Ie, sori, ella bod yna rei cwestiynau bach yn ddwys ar gyfer 2 funud. Ie, good point. Dysgu in action. Diolch. Gret. Diolch yn fawr iawn i chi gyd. Mwynhewch eich dydd Iau. A nhw'n ni weld chi yn fuan gobeithio. Diolch yn fawr.